What's going on, everybody? It's the FF Mediators. I'm joined by Coach. My name's Matt. Today, we're going to do a heat check on Tank Dell, kind of walk through what we're doing on our fantasy teams, how we're approaching, whether we're buying, selling, or holding with Tank Dell. Coach, how are you feeling? I know you were a big Tank Dell believer this offseason. I know that I was also a believer, but it seems like the offense kind of hasn't adapted in the way we thought it would.
Man, I got to be honest. I'm really panicked about Tank Dell right now. Tank Dell only has 38 targets at this point in the season. I mean, that's 49th amongst wide receivers. There's my biggest concern. I mean, it's not like CJ Stroud isn't completing the ball. I mean, he has 177 completions, which is fifth in the NFL. So the offense is moving. CJ Stroud's playing pretty good. The problem is Tank Dell's just not getting targets, and that's my biggest concern. He is 51st in receptions. I mean, it is ugly so far.
Yeah, and as far as these rankings and stats that we have, we are recording this prior to the Sunday night game, so they might be subject to change. But yeah, I mean, he's 66th in yards on the season. He's only got two plays of 20 more yards on a reception, so the big explosive plays just aren't happening, and that's been a big problem for Tank Dell. But it hasn't plagued the Texans' offense, so that means obviously Nico was having a great year prior to his injury. Stephon Diggs has really impacted this team and changed the way that I think we saw the pass catchers prior to the season. But when you're looking at his points per game, only 6.4 in half PPR, 8.07 in full PPR. That's not going to be enough to win you the week, and it's not something that you can trust to start in your lineup.
No, his day was salvaged today by getting in the end zone, which made him somewhat playable. It's just unbelievable to me that he's a guy that I'm not sure I can start moving forward. I mean, if you compare him to last season, in 11 games that he played last year, he had 75 targets. Well, through seven now this year, he's got 38. Like he is way, way off of what he was last year. I mean, that's the concern. Is it Stephon Diggs? Obviously he's a big part of this. He's part of the reason Tank just hasn't got the looks. But still, I mean, there's a lot of concern there.
Yeah, I agree. It's concerning. And you mentioned last season. I mean, his first six games, when he really kind of started breaking out, he had 31 receptions with 442 yards and five touchdowns, which came out to be 17 and a half points a game. That's huge. That's someone that you want in your lineup and you're going to play. But it's been the opposite of that all year. It just seems like he's lost and hasn't been really involved in the offense. Like you said, his target numbers aren't great, receptions aren't great, and CJ Stroud is throwing the ball. So it makes him difficult to trust when you're putting him in your lineup. And, when we're talking in terms of buy, sell, hold, I'm a little concerned. I mean, it's tough. He's wide receiver 32 over on Keep Trade Cut. There's names, the wide receiver names around him are interesting, Coach. It's Ladd, Jamison Williams, Debo Samuel, Chris Godwin, and Keon Coleman. I think there's several names that I might be intrigued in having over him right there.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of guys I'd rather have than Tank Dell, just to be honest. The biggest concern for me is that Nico Collins has been out, and that hasn't helped Tank Dell any. I thought for sure, well, his target rate's going to go up now that Nico's not there, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, I mean the offense has looked elsewhere. I think Joe Mixon's played pretty well so far.
Hmm.
Obviously, you mentioned Stephon Diggs too, and he's played really well, and he seems to be involved in a focal point of the offense. But I'll kick it to you now, Coach. If you have him on your roster, are you trying to sell him? Are you holding him? What's your plan?
Well, it's a little bit of the hold and hope for me at this point. It's possible that I'm gonna go out and see if I can move him to someone and get an older receiver to help me win now. I mean, that's possible. Someone willing to take a chance on that. So I may look there. That's just kind of where I'm at. Like at this point, you're not getting the market value you could have gotten at the beginning of the season. And that's why it's sort of a hold and hope he has one big day kind of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're moving him, you're going to have to be careful because, market value is kind of all over the place. You mentioned his day was salvaged today with a touchdown. Um, does that mean that his value is going to climb back somewhere close to a first? Maybe, but I don't think you're going to get someone to pay that. I think that's going to be your hard part. And, you don't want to sell at a discount because you're not going to be helping your team. So if I could move him for a Debo and maybe get something else, or move him for, like you said, a vet who's going to come in and help my team win, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I'd 100% consider Debo right now if it was me. As a matter of fact, I may send that offer here in just a minute when we get off. Now that you mentioned that, um, I'm
Uh,
with you. Like you've got to look at an older guy, and you got to find an owner that's thinking about maybe making his team younger. And taking a chance on Tank Dell.
Yeah, and I mean, not to make this about Debo, but we mention all the time of like he's a perfect player in that 2 year window because he's so good in that
Mhm.
offense. You know, that's kind of what we expected for Tank Dell, not to be the Debo Samuel role, but to be involved in an offense that we thought was really good. And frankly, it just hasn't
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little shocked that his usage hasn't been higher. I expected way more than this coming into the season, and I've been honestly very wrong on Tank Dell at this point, and that's why I'm panicked and trying to see if there's a way I can get off of him.
Yeah. So I think that's going to do it for us, everybody. We appreciate you watching. So in conclusion, we're going to be holding Tank Dell. If we can get somebody that's going to overpay, then we're happy to ship him off. But for now, you're going to hold on to him. It's not been great for the wide receiver 71 overall, but we'll see if there's better days ahead. Be sure to follow us over on X at the FF Mediators. Subscribe to the YouTube. Be sure to like the video down below. Comment what you're doing with Tank Dell. What's your thoughts? If you've made a recent trade, be sure to let us know. Also, be sure to follow and subscribe to the Faceoff Sports Network. We're proud to be affiliates with them. We go live every single Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern over on YouTube and answer your fantasy questions, start sits, trades, buy sells. But until then, we'll see you next time.